T1 in the UK and Europe is still top of mind, working towards that, coordinating with the regulators. The main things really that we learned was communication, education, and coordination among participants, regulators, and the investing public, so that they knew what the implications were. T0 is still a thought. Really, if we look at the real issues around T1, what it brought to the forefront and operational needs and the need for humans still be in the loop, T0 is still not really ready for prime time yet.
What are the biggest barriers standing in the way of T+0?
First thing is operational. As we saw in T1, a lot of the issues that rose beyond just funding, foreign exchange, securities lending, corporate actions, collateral management, beyond that is if something goes wrong, a human has to get involved, and the number of parties involved in that post-trade cycle can be anywhere up to 5 or 6 different entities. So if something happens, say on a allocation across 100 accounts, 20 of those accounts participate in securities lending, need recalls, one of the recalls fails, you still need a subject matter expert to step in there and solve that problem. Needs to contact somebody. Somebody needs to answer the phone. And there has to be a communication between different parties in order to have anything happen. That necessary intervention of people in the loop can't really be solved by more automation, even AI. AI is really a helper. It's not going to answer the issues and problems that a subject matter expert would be able to address. It can highlight and accelerate identification of those issues, but resolving them still takes time.
How do you envision cross-border coordination and time zone challenges being resolved?
You can't solve a time problem. In a T1 world, even, you see issues, and we continue to see issues for investors from the Asian markets, Australia, Japan, Singapore, Malaysia, wherever, invest in the US because they're effectively operating already on a T0 perspective. And that introduced a lot of pain in regards to pre-funding and all the other things I mentioned around securities lending, collateral management, and whatnot. If you were to make markets T0, how are they supposed to actually participate if effectively now they're T-1? So time zones are just a reality of the world, and we have to take those into account.
What role will distributed ledger technology and tokenization play?
All these new technologies do offer potential for efficiencies in various processes. Perhaps not in a DeFi environment. A lot of the experiments that you see going on now are within centralized controlled platforms of all things. Moving activity from traditional infrastructure, TradeFi infrastructure, to the new kind of blockchain or distributed ledger type technology can provide some efficiencies in timing, reconciliation, and those kind of things. But it really comes to a question of, is that investment worth, if it's not broke, don't fix it kind of thing, right? If we're in a T1 environment and that's good and it's operating, then why turn everything on its head, possibly introduce more errors and problems by just shifting to a new platform? That's not to say that there isn't opportunity for new markets, especially as tokenization accelerates, digital assets accelerates, and creating new infrastructure specifically for those new types of assets, and then seeing if there's a natural shift from traditional finance into more of the advanced technology on the infrastructure side. Traditional finance, regulatory structure, investor protection, all that kind of thing has grown up over 150, 200 years. If you suddenly move to a new technology, are you capturing all those protections and regulatory needs that have grown up over the years? Obviously, some would say that there are a lot of regulation or processes that are inefficient and no longer applicable, but you still have the needs for protecting investors from bank runs, right? So one of the things that the Fed had noted in a Fed Now payments paper on CWC 2, 3 years ago now was the issue of bank runs. That's why they were not looking at CWC directly, because effectively, if you don't have any, if you're in a atomic market, if there's a bad actor, how do you prevent that from just draining everything? If you don't have there really is no way to introduce a break or a stop in that kind of environment.
How is governance and industry coordination being structured for a potential T+0?
ISITC is staying involved in the conversations in Europe and the UK on T1. Before any other kind of move, we need to see if other markets and the coalescing down to T1 across the globe for that. There really isn't an expectation to move to T0. And when I am looking at that, we're looking at the investment management global custodian community in partnership with the brokerage community and industry infrastructure. There is perhaps, and we've seen it in India, the broker to broker side of the world, because if you look at there's two different flows that happen, right? So broker transactions over exchange, but then you have the investment management to broker interaction for the buy side, which has a lot more complications, and that's really the issues that we raised up with the SEC and others, and we're talking with Europe and the UK regulators about in regards to the buy side post-trade operational flows and complications there. So the broker-to-broker exchange side is simpler, not simple, but still has less complications. And you see that there has been some move to T0 on exchanges throughout the globe. And so there may be possibility on that side. And just for those kind of trade flows where it's on exchange, centralized, central counterparty, controlled environment, maybe moving to digital ledgers for that to go to T0 there.
What are your thoughts on stablecoins?
It's an interesting environment. The Genius Act getting passed. We actually had a forum discussion, panel discussion at our September conference that we held in Baltimore. A number of experts, 4 experts, were talking about the actual USD stablecoin that was talked about in the Genius Act. And questions came up around, in order to be a valid US dollar stablecoin within the US regulatory regime, you actually needed to segregate an equal value of treasuries away. So there's questions of, does that lock up treasuries in the marketplace? What does that do for collateral management, being that treasuries are the main venue for collateral management, collateral? Is there a shift to using US dollar stablecoin for collateral, but is that going to be acceptable? And non-payment of interest on US dollar stablecoin investments. There's a lot of questions out there. I think that there's a number of experiments throughout the globe that show some promise, and ISITC involved in discussions around how does that interact with the traditional finance rails, what new things that we have to consider, what things should be captured within the tokenization digital asset world. Right now, a lot of work still being done on defining what these things are. What is a token? Is it a native? There's a lot of different variations, right? So you can have a native token, so something issued directly on a blockchain, but you can also have just a digital asset. Digital asset's digital, just isn't on a blockchain. So the difference between those two things, is it a really platform-specific segregated asset? Is it wrapped? Is it backed fully, like the US dollar stablecoin with treasury kind of model? Or is it, oh, well, I only hold 50% of the actual value that I'm issuing out in a token? All these things need to be answered and defined well, and how they behave with each other. Registrars and transfer agents are going to be an important party involved in this, especially when you look at going across chains. There isn't just one blockchain out there. If you have token here and you want to move it over to this other chain, how does that happen? And what lives, what dies? Is it segregated across? Just, there's a lot of things that mirror the traditional financial markets, especially multi-listed equities. And how do you replicate that in a digital world?
Who can join ISITC?
Any firm can join ISITC. We're about bringing together subject matter experts for creating those operational efficiencies and better communication in the cross-border markets. You can be a new technology, fintech, or you can be TradFi, big house, small house, regional, all those kind of things. So we're just looking to bring in the folks that roll up their sleeves, actually deal with these problems day to day, as opposed to talking theoretically about things. ISITC is really focused on creating those market practices that solve the problems that the participants and our constituents are dealing with. These problems day to day, as opposed to talking theoretically about things. ISITC is really focused on creating those market practices that solve the problems that the participants and our constituents are dealing with.